in whose traditional lands we are meeting today. Introduction of late items. Did everybody get a copy of this? H. 8, J9, as you know, Minister of State Anderson is planning to travel to the region, and on January, she wish to speak to us from 1:40 to 2:10 p.m. And we have wish to bring some topics to discuss so that we're ready for her at this meeting tonight to discuss. Kind of a motion to bring that forward. Councillor Knoisen seconded. Councillor McLaren. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. We'll make that item J9. Adoption of the agenda. Recommendation for the agenda of the December 8th, 2025 regular meeting be adopted as presented. Have a motion to bring that forward. Councillor Hutch seconded. Councillor McLaren. Questions? All in favor? Carried. Adoption recommendation, the minutes of the November 24th, 2025 regular meeting be adopted as presented. Motion to bring that one forward. Councillor McLaren, seconded. Councillor Knoisen. Any questions on the November 24th minutes? All in favor? Carried. So tonight we have a delegation and Nakusp RCMP update. Recommendation, the presentation provided by the Nakusp RCMP detachment be received for information. Have a motion to bring that forward. Councillor McLaren, seconded. Councillor Knoisen. All right, call for
Next slide and I'll.
Sure. Thanks for having me. Update's long overdue. I want to do it quarterly, but you know, I've gotten away this past little bit. So next slide. So we have Constable Thompson has moved out. He went to Lake Country, and Constable Jordan Cock is coming in. He is from Dees Lake, and his stuff moved in today. So there'll be minimal downturn. I'm taking a 6-month pat leave. We just had a kiddo. Next. Sorry. So there's us. We had Eddie there. We call him.
Congratulations.
Yeah, 10 pounds. So we're happy with that. Ongoing training. We have newest member, second newest member now, Constable Dillon's going to be attending investigative courses. That's like managing human sources. That's informants, warrant writing, the investigative side of the house, while Constable Cock is going to be doing the traffic stuff. So he comes with all the traffic mandatory courses that do like the ASD, like the intoxilizer, the breath testing, all that stuff. So we'll be able to do that. I did a workshop in PRTC, which is in Chilliwack, all about how to navigate HR in the federal government. Essentially, it's 80% of your work is dealing with 20% of your poor performers, right? So we're very fortunate here. We don't have a poor performer. They won't send one. Because you work on your own here essentially, and they're not going to send someone that needs a ton of supervision here. So we're lucky that way. Next. So I think our priorities this year are going to be the same as last year. We're going to focus on suppressing habitual offenders. That's individuals that are competing, that are doing all the crime in town. That's the same 5 people that do 95% of the crime. And that works well for us and has worked well. We've dropped significantly by keeping some people in jail, which is helpful. And that also focusing on people that are focusing on people that are on release conditions. So if they are on conditions, that they'll be charged again if they're breaching their conditions. We've had a lot of complaints about people that are passing school buses with the stop sign out. So that's an issue. When Jordan gets set up, he's going to be the primary point of contact for that. And there's going to be no warnings. It's just going to be straight to charge. Charged 2 already this year. And it's mostly people from not from within the community. It's from somewhere else, like Alberta and like the island or down in Lorraine. That's next, please. So violent crime, just a rundown of violent crime. We went through this last time. Assaults, that can be anything from like a physical attack with a weapon to like a threat or a light shove. Robbery, that's armed and unarmed. Violence to steal, like I push you, I take your purse, that's a robbery. Like everyone knows what murder is, homicide. Sexual assault, that's in the large range from touching to threats to commit a sexual assault or a full sexual assault. No. So these, I was able to pull the stats just from Nakusp. This is the village of Nakusp only. We're going in the right direction when it comes to violent crime. And it's down to 18 total within for 2025, and that's 2 more months. So we're right around the same, like 23, which is good for a town this size. And that's a range from violence like pushing to like we had behind the bar there in the morning where late at night we had an aggravated assault with a vehicle where someone was run over on purpose. So that will count as violent crime. Property crime, theft, breaking and enter, mischief, breaking things, taking things that are not yours, then going into a business and stealing. Next. So we had last year in 2024, we had higher than normal, but we had some active people that were stealing other people's yards. We've gone, some of them spent some time in jail this past year, so we had a draw. Which is good, and it shows that if you focus on those small, tiny minority of people that are committing the crime, those are the ones that are that can be effective if they either leave town or are arrested and spend time in jail. Drugs, I talked about this last time as well. We don't have any drug dealers that aren't subsistent drug dealers here. Like, so what that means is people that are selling drugs to support their own habit. We have a very low level bottom feeder drug subculture here. Not saying that those drugs aren't dangerous, but we don't have any real organized drug trade here. Even that being said, I still would like to address some of that. Next, please. So drugs, that means that's drug seizures that we've had. So we've had no drug seizures in the last year, or one drug seizure, or no, none, sorry. I'd like to change that. I'd like to get more drugs in the evidence locker. Next. Traffic, we're going to focus on this. We've been lucky that a lot of our overtime people that come and replace people when they're like either when they're off or people go on holidays, I call it overtime. A lot of them come from the traffic unit that works out of Kamloops. And when they're here, they write a lot of tickets, which is good because as members that live and work in this community, we can only get away with so much when it comes to traffic. While we be right under the law, we want to make sure our relationships aren't burnt with a lot of people, and we so when bad things happen, we want people to talk to us. Like for that incident behind the bar that night, I think if people were mad at us for writing a lot of tickets, I don't think we'd get the cooperation that we would to have solved that like really quick. So that's why we bring in people from outside to write all the tickets. Yeah, that's traffic offenses. That's criminal code traffic offenses. That's impaired, IRPs, dangerous driving, criminal code, anything like that. So that incident behind the bar would have a stat in there for that because one of them is a criminal related driving offense. Next. Yeah, this, looking forward, we're gonna be doing, what we're gonna be doing, school zones, buses, drop-offs. New members to the team will get oriented and reintegrated, like just reinitiating enforcement projects aimed at habitual offenders. With the Ulsters Farm happening down in Edgewood, like my attention for the past year was down there. And I didn't get to do a lot of stuff I wanted to do, but now that that's done, we're gonna get back at it. So you can tell by the look on my face there, I'm probably not super enthusiastically happy to be there. But we worked like for the last year since I got here, it was a couple times a week we were down there dealing with this thing. 60 police officers from all over BC were involved in this every day for the past, it was a better part of a month. I don't even know what it would cost, but we were able to keep the peace while another agency did what they were mandated to do. Probably one of the most challenging things I've ever been involved in as a police officer in my last 18 years. It was a no-win situation for anybody, and I'd like to see eventually next quarter, I'd like to see how many calls for service that thing that generated, because it was substantial, especially the days like leading up and after the incident. Yeah. Next. So yeah, we're hiring again. The Prime Minister just authorized 1,000 new police officers to be hired on top of what is being as a regular part of attrition. So if you know anybody that's looking for a career in law enforcement, we're hiring. We have some young people from town are applying, which is nice. We could always use more. But, please pass the word along. Thanks. So I just want to add too that we fixed the sign in front of the detachment. That was a 3-year process getting that fixed up. When it went up, I phoned Tom Gill and he was very happy with that because he's like, well, it only took 3 years, and I'm like, well, yeah, that was quite the effort to get that out. But I wouldn't let it go. The squeaky wheel in the government gets greased, so I was able to finally get that done. But I'm going to be off till June, and Mark Norman is going to be filling in for me. But I'll give Wayne my contact information, like my personal stuff. If you have questions or concerns, feel free to reach out. But any questions, anything I can clarify?
Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Councillor Knowles.
I actually have 3 questions. So the first one is when you say that you're suppressing habitual offenders,
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, and I know you mentioned that they're charged with breaching conditions, but
Yeah.
what are the other ways that you're suppressing them?
So we're just making sure that they know that they're being watched.
Oh.
So we'll do, say, if you're mandated for to be in your house between midnight and 6 every day, we're gonna be knocking on your door to make sure you're actually staying there. So if they know they're being watched, they're less likely to be out and about, right? So, and also we are gonna be charging for everything. If you're a habitual offender and we're consistently dealing with you, we will not give you any breaks when it comes to breaches. You're just gonna be breached, and the judge can make the decision whether you're going to jail. We're also doing to it, and this is a thing we've been doing. So I noticed that we get a lot of people that come in here. Like, it's rare, but it comes like 5 times in the past year. Transient people that are like a lot of mental health stuff. Just really high users of well, they use drugs, but they also use the system a lot, like hospital and our services. So what I would do is I would just get them to, we just drive them to like Vernon or Nelson, because we have no services for them here. Like it's not ideal for someone that's addicted to be like without a place to stay and sleeping on the street. Like we can't do it here. We can't, like, our services can't absorb that. One lady, she came off the ferry from Revelstoke, and we looked her up, Mark and I looked her up, and she had 300 occurrences in the last year. So every single day she had police. That's not including any fire or EMS or medical, right? So like we can't help her here as well to interpret her, and that's for her request. Like the extra overtime is well worth. So thank the so
Right.
Any other questions?
Yeah, thanks, to the mayor. Just want to say awesome, for, traffic control or through the school zones and
Yeah.
whatnot, because I've witnessed so many potential situations where, you know, people are in harm's way there and so, yeah, highly, appreciate you guys.
yeah, no, we're gonna be all over that. It like anything, if we don't come up with a system to watch it and monitor it, it gets pushed to the side. So we now have a one point of contact. Jordan, like the new guy, Jordan he's a traffic guy, he's gonna deal with that, and no breaks, like just straight to charge. So
Just one more. Yeah, just out of curiosity, what is the turnover or the switch out of constables and your stuff like?
So we rotate on a 3-year rotation.
Okay.
You have a option to extend for a 4th year,
Okay,
but it has to be granted by our staffing people and the boss, like Jason Berger has to approve it. So it's usually it's rarely granted. Like when I left the north, I asked to stay an extra year and they just said no. Like they want you moving, especially in the smaller towns with forced housing. And this is one of these spots where when someone leaves, there's about 4 or 5 people that have their hand up that they want to come here. So it's we don't ever have problems filling these spots.
Councillor McLaren.
Yeah, just a quick question, just to follow up on Councillor Huff. Is there, maybe it's Constable that Jordan will come in and talk to the school district or the school board about some traffic flow
Yeah, absolutely.
around the schools? Because I live just above you there and
Yeah.
now drive my kids to the high school, so I go through that quite often. And it's better with having just somebody posted near there,
Yeah.
but the traffic, the flow of the whole thing seems very chaotic and problematic.
Right at that 4-way, that stop sign where, like right on the corner where I live, I think it would be beneficial to have a 4-way stop there. Just because I see people coming down, like they bomb down that hill.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be benefit to have like a 4-way stop there. That'll be all stuff that we deal with.
Thank you. So when you had the bar graphs you were showing us with reported numbers for things, do those numbers reflect the reported crimes, say robberies, or the people who've been charged?
So it's reported and founded incidents,
Okay.
that not essentially charges, right? Because charges aren't up to us. Crown decides who's charged. So it's founded incidents that we believe happened,
Okay.
and that's it charges maybe, right? I can get actual charges laid too, if you'd like to. see
No,
those.
I was curious if it reflected all of the crimes that happened that people reported. So if it does, that's great. And my final, if I may, thank you, is that you said that they'll be hiring 1,000 new officers, and I'm just wondering what the prerequisite qualifications are for applying for such a job.
So there's the minimum qualifications. It's you have to be 19, of good character, good health, no criminal record, be able to drive, be able to lawfully carry a gun, willing to move anywhere in Canada, willing to use force if you have to, right? So it's the minimum standards are like you don't need any special education or anything, just high school. But it's better to have more stuff because you can go in as a competitive applicant. But those 1,000 new members are going to federal, but that'll mean that a lot of the spots here in contract, because there's 2 sides of our house, right? We have federal side, which is all the it's like the FBI stuff, right? Like the terrorism, the organized crime, all that kind of stuff, where we're contract, it's because the government of BC contracts us to be the police and jurisdiction here in the province. So
Thank you.
no, I just want to say, thank you for having me in the community. during the ostrich farm, there was a lot of stuff on social media about like anti-police, and a lot of, like, one of the big things was get the police to quit. And I got stopped numerous times, and the people, like, town people were like, "Don't listen to that shit. Like, you know, you guys do a good job." So that happened a couple times actually, which is rare. Appreciate it. So
Does New Denver, do they have a new corporate?
so yes, so New Denver is now, no, I'm not responsible for New Denver anymore. They have their own, like Sheldon Birch is the acting corporal there. When he leaves, they'll fill his spot with another corporal. So that's a good thing for the cusp, because now all my attention is focused on the cusp, whereas it was drawn between two, right? They're still gonna work closely together, back each other up in cases like for on-call.
So that'll make a big difference.
They will make a very big difference.
And that just happened, just,
Like this, like 3-4 months ago. Yeah. So that is, that's something that everybody wanted, which is good. The people in New Denver are happy, like, I'm happy with that. And the customer's happy with that too, right? So.
thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Well, we appreciate your time and congratulations.
Oh, thanks. No, I'm gonna be gone for 6 months, but I'll be still in town. Grace is in school, so we're not going anywhere. And I'll make sure you guys have my contact info.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I can vote. Any further questions? All in favor? Carried. Great, yeah, thanks again. And unfinished business, monthly reports. Recommendation that the monthly reports from council be received for information, but most have been moved forward. Councilor Blanco, seconded. Councilor Huff. Councilor Huff, did you have anything? Sorry for losing.
Just verbally, going back because I didn't have a verbal report last time. October 8th, I went to the kinship meeting, October 15th, council meeting, 21st, the fire department meeting. I don't have a date for it, but I've attended several AKBLG meetings and committee meetings, both the board and committee meetings. The 27th committee of the whole special council meeting, and basically that's it.
Councilor Blanco.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I feel like I talked about some of this last month because it happened between my reporting and meeting. But some of the highlights are some AKDLG meetings. I got to go to Richmond for a couple of days, which was really nice for our first CBCM meetings, which was very interesting. It's a really good group of people. It's a 21-person executive, so it's a lot of voices. But all the things we talked about are listed there. If people have questions about it or curious about what goes on there, please ask. There's just 4 meetings a year, so they're try to get things done when you go. And I think the next meetings are in February, and I believe we will be talking about some of the urgent or the emergent things that are coming up from the province, including things like the Cowichan Lands decision and the Professional Alliance Act, and what was the other one, the Heritage Conservation Act. So yeah, UBCM was really great. Regional district, Director Amy Watson is the chair again, and I am the vice chair for the last year here. We did have a delegation from the Central Kootenai Food Policy Council, which is now called the Kootenai Food Council. And I bolded this in my report just so it would get people's attention. I know that food security and support for the agriculture sector is a hot topic in a lot of places, including here. And so if there are organizations in town that are looking for support, they do excellent work on a very slim budget. So I highly recommend people get in touch with them. Went on with the budgeting process at Regional District, which is, instead of doing it all in kind of January through March, we're chipping away at it in the meantime, so we can get it all in place and not rush at the end. And I believe I said this last time, but the regional district signed a 6-month extension with the village for our fire services while they negotiate a longer contract. Also joint resource, and I'm gonna loop in West Resource Committee there. Reviewed the budget. We spent a whole morning reviewing the West Resource Recovery budget. The highlight, and I think it's in the information items, is that tipping fees are going up, not insubstantially again, but the purpose behind that is to take the cost away from the taxpayer and put it more on the user. But yeah, happy to get into more details there. And then I think I said this last time too, but the West Transit Committee, something I've been pushing for is since the beginning was a reevaluation of how the costs are apportioned, because transit's very expensive, particularly for Nakusp. And if you look at our requisition, the top line is the arena by far is the most expensive thing, but the next line is transit. And in the 5-year financial plan, transit was going to cost Nakusp like $130,000 a year, like the taxpayers, not through the village, but the village taxpayers. And so after some review, they've changed it so that over a 5-year period, that'll be cut in by more than half for the same service. So that's a win for us. And yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Any questions for Councillor Glanville? Councillor Knowles?
Just wondering, you said that they're gonna cut those over the next 5 years in half for transit, fees over the next, but keep the same service. How are they doing that?
So through the mayor, they were saying, I can show, or I can find, or you can look on the website, the West Transit Committee website, regional district website, that they've adjusted the apportionment of who pays what percentage of the taxes, and they didn't want to do it all in 1 year. So because if ours are going down, some are going up, so they've just kind of blended it down over the years. So some are slowly going up, ours are slowly going up.
Makes sense, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. November 17th, I went to a NACPOR meeting, put the highlights on there, the operations, donations, accessibility committee, that was November 19th. So it looks like beginning of September, operations staff contacted a local contractor regarding the costs of purchasing automatic door operators, and mainly it'll be main places inside the village infrastructure. So it'll be main entrance at the Nakusp Hot Springs, main entrance into the auditorium, the Nakusp District Sports Complex, main entrance into the lobby at the District Sports Complex, main entrance with ramp into the village office, main entrance into the emergency service building, at the one right here. So you come up in a wheelchair, you'll be able to touch a button and it open. Should be nice. And also the village of Nakusp has applied to the local community accessibility grant through Social Planning and Research Council BC, SPAR BC, to fund this accessibility initiative. And I did reach out to the CAO and our administrative Cody Jones, and sounds like we've got the grant. So I want to thank them for applying for that. It's great. November 20th, attended an invite to our local Nakusp library. So a little information on the history. Also attended the Rotary Club in Nakusp. We celebrated 75 years of the Rotary Club. Sitting room only, and it was packed. So there's a video there if you ever get a chance to see it. 75 years, their accomplishments they've done. Very, very similar. Nice thing is the Kinsmen were back at the same time. Many things were going on in our community. And they did many, many things, both in Rotary and the Kinsmen. And surprisingly, Rotary is still standing with 10 members. Maybe a small bunch, but very powerful group. Attended the November 27th, attended the BC Rural Health Network Primary Care Model. There's a presentation by Chelsea Wozniak, who's the Executive Director of the Luther Court Community Health Center, explaining their model of care. So I got a link there to understand how that worked. Also sent a letter below to Minister Green, how road rescue is funded in BC. In BC, fire protection is a mandated municipal service, but road rescue is not. This creates a critical funding gap for rural communities like Nakusp. Problems that BC holds primary responsibility for rural road rescue service and for ensuring sustainability of funding to volunteer fire brigades, especially in rural, smaller, remote communities. So the letter was sent, and I did receive a reply, and we should be hearing something next week, or this week. So anyway, that's my report. Oh, actually, I do have one more. Just came across this morning, read it. Remember, we were talking about the virtual emergency care in our community. Actually, it started today, beginning December 8th, 2025. The IH Link Ed Interior Health Local Integrated Network for emergency departments will launch its initial phase with each site using virtual support for a few nights per week, while continuing regular in-person care on other nights. This gradual rollout will help our staff prepare for a smooth transition to full implementation in the new year. So there's a little video on that. I'll share that later. So anyway, that's good news. It has started. So it's good. And there's another question and answer. Why did they pick Nakusp? Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, why were Lillooet, Clearwater, Nakusp, and Princeton chosen for the pilot? The 4 communities selected for this initiative are similar in size and currently experience low overnight patient volumes, averaging 2 to 3 patients per night at each site. They fit the criteria for a collaborative model that enables small rural sites to support one another in maintaining overnight access to emergency care. So, and so it'll be a pilot project, and there's a lot more on this I could share later. Very well. So, and it's a good thing that's happening. Any questions?
Maybe talkative tonight, apparently. Just in your report here, you're talking about the automatic door openers.
Yes.
It says it will allow us to purchase several for these potential locations.
Yes.
I'm not clear, maybe it's just because I wasn't reading it well enough, but where is that money coming from to pay for it? Have we already secured that money, or do we have a grant application?
Yeah, there was a grant application to, what was it called?
Is that the local community accessibility grant or a different one?
Gotta find it.
It's through,
Go ahead.
it's through Spark BC.
So we haven't secured the funding yet.
It sounds like it's in the mail. Is that correct? So, thanks again. Any other questions?
I was just gonna say, it's not a question, but I've, for various reasons, had to take a couple people to the hospital in the past couple of weeks at night. And both times there was a virtual doctor, and it has actually worked out really well. So it was nice to see it in action, and
Yeah.
kind of neat to, yeah.
But I guess this December 8th was the starting date. So
Oh,
They were
trying to-
reading.
They're practicing on it.
it's good. So I'll send out some more information. I haven't read it all. Go ahead.
Do you know what metrics they'll use to determine if it's successful?
No, I don't. I haven't read it all yet.
That's okay.
It'll probably take about a year.
Okay.
You know, share it with other communities, and if it works well, they'll spread.
Customer complaints.
Any other questions? All in favor? There. Motions arising. Bylaws. Recommendation for reserve funds establishing amending bylaw number 757/2025 be given first, second, and third readings. Have a motion to bring those forward. Councillor Clarence Cole, seconded. Councillor Howe. Questions? Councillor Clarence Cole.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I was gonna ask, probably through the staff, if we will see a long-term financial / capital plan and establish timelines for managing these assets.
Through the mayor to Councilor Franco. So for these 2 specific reserve funds.
Yeah.
Not in the immediate future. There's no money in there,
Mm-hmm.
but we do need to come up with a plan. But the reality is, we're so far away from actually having enough money to do anything.
Mhm.
Probably be 5 years before we can even start to spend money out of those reserves.
Supplement. Okay, through the mayor, thank you. I'm just trying to understand how we set the rate. And to, like, for example, we have the other general asset management fee or levy, whatever, that we put on our budget. And in about 10-ish years, we will arrive at some kind of parity, right?
Yeah.
That's my question. Like, we could put $2,000 in there every year and never reach it, or like how do, because we're gonna set it the rental rates or taxation or something, right? So we have to pick something.
Yeah, okay, so I understand. Yeah, we will come up with something. Right now, it's just based off of surplus from rental. Right, so that it's not costing tax. That's where we came up with this year's number. And then we'll come up with a future number where we either increase rents, which we have discussed with the Centennial building users the need to do, and they're in support of that. That's something money goes back to the building. Or in the case of the ESB, it could potentially be taxes that are required to help assist that. But there is potentially room for rental increases with one of the users here who pays substantially less than the other two, so.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? All in favor? Carried. J1. Recommendation that the 2026 council and committee of the whole meeting schedule be approved as presented. A motion to bring that forward. Councillor McLaren-Cole, seconded. Councillor Tough, questions? Councillor Huff.
To the mayor and staff. So on October 26, 2026, are we busy that day to be councillor? No, I'm joking. I'm just joking. Just curious on the cancellation already. Is it just
So the reason why, through the mayor, the reason why we proposed to cancel it is the election will happen the weekend before.
okay?
So the thought was the new councils at that point not even have their inaugural meeting.
Yeah.
So the existing council could sit down and talk about the items if they wanted to, but in reality, you'd be making recommendations to a new council and they might not know the context of why those recommendations are what they are.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor? J2, council appointments. Recommendation that the council appointments scheduled for December 2025 through to October 2026 be approved as presented. Kind of motion to bring those forward. Councilor McLaren-Cole, seconded. Councilor Canoisan. Questions? Councilor Canoisan.
Thank you. So there's 3 different appointments on here I'd like to discuss. First of which is Fair Trade, which I am the rep on. Fair Trade didn't meet last year, and despite my effort to reach out to the school and find out if they wanted to continue, I haven't heard back, so I'm not sure if we need to continue with that appointment or not. The next one is that I'll bring up is the Nakusp District Chamber of Commerce. Councillor Edwards and myself are no longer voting members on that board, so it's conceivable that there maybe could be somebody chosen to be a rep on that. And finally, on the Rec Commission 4, a question through the mayor to Councillor McLaren-Cole, that those meetings have been paused. I've understood temporarily until some decisions were made, and I'm just wondering if you know if those decisions have been made.
Do you want me to start?
Yeah.
Through the mayor, nope, things take forever. It's on a work plan somewhere and it's not getting, I mean, it's probably getting closer to being done, but in the meantime, Director Weatherhead and I review the few applications that come in and approve or don't approve them.
If I may, based on that information, I'm just wondering, do we just keep somebody on the seat in case that comes to a place where they need a council rep?
Through the mayor, I would say yes. I don't, what we've asked regional district staff to do is come back with some governance options. So technically, it still exists in its current form. It's just they haven't had quorum in 2 years. So it still exists like this. So I would suggest yes, that we retain the appointee.
So fair trade, most of the committees, and they haven't reached out to you.
No, I reached out to the school and I phoned and then they took a message and they were supposed to get back to me. That was last year. I should have reached out again today, but I didn't. I was busy. So, but even the year, at the end of the year before that, there were no students to meet with. So I'm not sure if there's a necessity to continue with it or not.
I'm not sure either. I guess we could leave it, but reach out to them. Just leave it just in case there's a new reps for the high school that want to take it on coming up. And what was the other one?
Oh, the Chamber of Commerce.
Do you meet when? When do you meet?
When do they meet? I think they have to meet 6 times a year, and I don't know their meeting schedule.
Interesting. Not sure. Anybody interested?
I wouldn't mind. I definitely, as long as it isn't perceived as a conflict of interest.
Would you like to stay on there?
I don't mind.
Anybody alternate?
Sure.
Just going to clarify. And did you want to change something?
We don't have to. I mean, we can leave it as it is. It's just I have no burning desires to do that.
Because right now you've got. Remember we did discuss this to change it to the RDC and West Resources, but
Yeah, we can if it's cleaner that way.
I think we shouldn't we?
Sure. Yeah, West Resource and Joint Resource Recovery.
So we'll switch those two around. For discussion. Any others?
Just had a question.
Yeah.
Maybe through the staff, but are we working on a policy on external appointments? And maybe does that policy include a reporting requirement? Because I think there's some things that I don't think we've ever had a report on.
To the mayor, yeah, I do think that that's a good idea to have that. I think in general, it's a good idea to have a policy on how we report as how council members report back on what things they report on and what things they should not report on.
Supplemental, through the mayor. So we're already working on.
It's on the docket of things that we're working on.
Okay, sorry, it's on a work plan
Yes.
to do a policy that could also maybe include what the reporting piece.
Yes.
Okay, perfect, thanks.
Any others? All in favor?
Wait, sorry, Mr. Mayor, we have to do this properly.
Okay, so
We have to amend
There's
this
some
first of all.
amendments here,
So can I get a motion for an amendment? And I just need to know exactly what the amendments are. So
Okay, so the amendments would be for, under, NAC4 is already done. RDCK Municipal Director. No, we already got that one. The RDCK West Resource Recovery Committee, Councilor McLaren Cole. And Mayor Zelsnick, the alternate. The Joint Resource Recovery, Councilor McLaren Cole, Mayor Zelsnick, alternate. Chamber. So, Councilor Canoizen and Councilor McLaren Cole, the alternate. And I think that was it.
I have a question, I just noticed this now, but emergency management DC. I don't recall, there's nobody next to it, but I don't recall ever having anybody there. Is that,
It doesn't exist anymore.
oh, can we also amend it to remove them?
Yeah, we got amendment to eliminate the emergency management, BC, EMBC.
So we just need to vote on the amendment. So we need to move on the amendment and vote on the amendment.
So all in favor of the amendments?
I need a mover.
Oh, I need a mover. Okay, can I have a move to move the amendments? Councilor Glencoe seconded. Councilor Canoizen, all in favor? Carried. Back to the original.
As submitted, perfect.
Okay. Okay.
I need to vote on that.
Original meeting, original appointments with the amendments added. All in favor? Carried. J3. Recommendations that following appointments be made to conduct the 2026 general municipal election for Nakusp. Cody Jones, Chief Election Officer, Jessica McQuarrie, Deputy Chief Election Officer. Can I have a motion to bring those forward? Councilor Huff, seconded. Councilor McLaren Cole. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. J4, Nakusp Accessibility Plan Adoption Request. That the Nakusp Accessibility Plan be adopted as presented. Hope everyone had a chance to read that. I'll have a motion to bring that forward. Councilor McLaren Cole, seconded. Councilor Huff, any questions? Councilor McLaren Cole.
Yeah, it's kind of maybe a silly question, but through the mayor, first of all, it's awesome. So great work, everybody. Just how will things be funded? Although I see that we got the 25,000 through a grant earlier, and then when we do add things like that, if they're beyond a threshold for asset management, is that by policy incorporated into a capital plan? So,
To the mayor, so we will look, of course, yeah, as stated, grants when they become available, whenever we're redoing or working on an upgrade to a piece of infrastructure, and we will be taking a look at this and making sure that's included into. So, and sometimes it could be taxes that are used towards to further the plan. As for like the capital aspect, we have thresholds for when a piece of it, whatever it happens to be, is considered a capital asset. And then it would be included in the capital asset plan at that time.
Thank you, Councilor McLaren Cole. Thank you, the CEO, and thank you for everyone that worked on this accessibility plan. It's a great opportunity. It's been long waiting for this to happen. And like you said, there are many other projects there, but these are the 5 that we picked for now. So some ongoing accessibility plan. J5. Recommendations, the development of properties within the village core and the gateway DPAs. Did I miss one?
you need to vote on this one.
Well, yeah, we'll go back up to the J4. Any further questions? All in favor? Carried. J4. Thanks, Councilor Huff. I saw your eyebrow. Be sure. You're awake. Recommendations, development of properties within village core of the gateway DPAs are not required to apply for a development permit if the development is not the primary building on the property, not visible from the front parcel line, not visible from the waterfront, and not situated on the corner lot adjacent to a street or avenue. And can I have a motion to bring that forward? Councilor McLaren, seconded. Councilor Hub, questions? Councilor McLaren,
Not a question, just quickly to say, the deck is already stacked against developers and investors here, so anything to reduce, red tape while also meeting our objectives is great, so thank you, staff.
Councilor Kamizen,
Ditto. He said it more eloquently than I was going to, but exactly, yes.
any other questions? All in favor? Carried. And then staff develop a policy for council's consideration that determines when a development is or is not required. And motion to bring that one forward. Councilor McLaren, seconded. Councilor Huff, any questions? All in favor? Carried. J6. Regional operating budget. And I believe there will be a slide, is that correct, on this one? Recommendation that the 2026 provisional operating budget be approved as submitted. Can I motion to bring this forward? Councilor McLaren, seconded. Councilor Kamizen. And if this is a provisional, December 8th, January 12th will be another provisional capital budget. March 23rd is the final operating capital budget. April 27th, first three readings, the 5-year financial plan and tax bylaw rates. May 11th, adoption of the 5-year financial plan, and tax rates. So.
Just gonna do a brief presentation of the operating budget. Not gonna go into detail of the budget that's in the report. I'm just gonna, in a few slides, highlight kind of the major changes from last year to this year. So at the end of it, we can go back and you can ask me any questions that you may have. So agenda for the slideshow, just a quick overview of the budget process, some general budget information, the effect on taxes this year, and then we're going to look at the operating budget, what it consists of. So admin and legislative, public works, and parks and fire departments. Then we look at our options to balance the budgets, and then the final process in budgeting, which is the 5-year financial plan and city bylaws. Oh yeah, sorry, hot springs is in there as well too. So the budget process, it's planning year round. We have the provisional operating budget in December, so that's this one here now. The provisional capital will have in the first meeting in January. And then we'll bring the final operating and capital budgets in April to council. Those will have any small changes that happen between now and then. Stuff that could come up is potential emergencies or a lot of grants. We have more ideas on if they're approved or not by then. So those get incorporated into the final budgets. And then in April and May, we do the financial plan and tax rate bylaw adoptions. So some general budget information. Local governments must have a balanced budget and cannot budget for a deficit unless they cover the deficit in the following year's budget. This is not recommended. So not having a tax increase or cut in taxes means that a cut in service is required because target inflation is 2% annually. It's actually been higher in recent years, although in the most recently released statistics, it was 2% in BC this year and 0.2% Canada. So it's kind of seems like it's back to regular levels. And just a reminder that we only control the rate for the village portion of property taxes. In 2025, that was only 45% of the total taxes on somebody's tax bill. Other taxes on there that we collect and remit to other organizations are the regional district taxes, hospital taxes, police taxes, school taxes, and the Municipal Finance Authority and British Columbia Assessment Authority. So again, we collect and remit these, but we have no control over what they actually are. And there's just a pie chart of basically that breakdown that we just talked about. So the outside of the village, the two biggest taxation agencies are the RDCK and school. So between the three of those, you're looking at is that over 90% of taxes? We don't have the assessments out for 2026 yet, so these are based off of 2025 assessments. But the average assessed single-family dwelling is about 442,000. The village taxes on an average single-family dwelling was $1,317. So with a projected increase of 11.2%, we're looking at an extra $147 for the average single-family dwelling, bringing the total village taxation to $1,464 for the average home. To give you an idea what a 1% increase in municipal taxes looks like, it's an extra $13.17 per property owner. And the village generates an additional $15,200 in tax revenue. So here's the following services included in the operating budget: administration and legislative, public works, marina parks, fire protection, and hot springs. In administration and legislative, we have legislative planning, which includes zoning, OCP, development permits, development variance permits, and subdivisions. Legal, which is related to bylaws, leases, and agreements, and insurance. Corporate services, including minutes, records management, communications, and public engagement. Finance, so taxes, utilities, budget, financial statements, accounts payable and receivable, financial reporting, payroll, and audit. We have HR, benefit management and union negotiations, and then all of our leases and grant administration. So notes about the 2026 budget related to administration and legislative. Again, taxes are increasing from 1.521 million to 1.691 million. So 11.2% increase. It's about $170,000 increase in revenue for the village. And those taxes, in addition to paying for administration and legislative, they also on public works, services, marina parks, and fire expenditures. Our transfers from reserves for admin are 75,000 budgeted for the Area K NACPR Legacy Fund disbursements. So that'd be for Director Weatherhead to disperse those funds. It's Area K's portion. And then there's 9,000 budgeted out of the election reserve for the 2026 election. And there's some grant funded projects in there for the hazard risk vulnerability assessment project and the recreation master plan. And then some unusual changes to expenditures. Again, we have 12,000 budgeted this year for the election, which only happens once every 4 years. And the planning and zoning budget was reduced significantly from 266,000 to 6,500. There was about 260,000 last year budgeted for grant reserve funded projects, some of which were the SDS bylaw. We had the local government housing initiatives grant to spend, and everything else still, or the master plan probably. So on the public works, services that the public works department provides are water distribution and treatment, sewer collection and treatment, roads, including snow removal, dust control, pothole repairing, and ditching. They look after the sidewalks and boulevards, lanes, including snow removal and repairs, the streetlights, hydrants, They do garbage and recycling collection, brushing on boulevards, and they look after the airport. Notes regarding the budget for public works in 2026, there's no significant changes. Overall expenses are actually decreasing by 21,000 for the budget, which is about a 2.8% decrease. And that is just to allocate more staff time from that department to go towards water and sewer. Which the director feels needs more attention than the public works side of things, so we reallocated some of the funding over there. And there is an increase in reserve transfers for just under 75,000, and that was our asset management reserve transfer increase. Again, just looking to get on track within 10 years. This is year 1 of 10. The water budget rates are increasing 3.8%, and this is for inflation and to increase our reserve transfers for asset management. Overall expenditures increased 6.6% from 2025, and again, that is part due to the increase in labor from public works employees having more work in that department, and reserve transfers increased $6,000 from 303,000 to 309,000. And again, our water looking for the reserves to be on target in 10 years, and this is year 1 of 10. Sewer rates are increasing 5% for the same thing, inflation and asset management increases. Overall expenditures increased 6.2% from 2025, again, for the exact same reason, inflation and more labor from the public works employees to this service. And reserve transfers increased from 106,000 to just under 112. Note that there's 150,000 of unusual operating expenditures budgeted. So it would, in a regular year, be 261,000, but instead of transferring money out of reserves to pay for those and then transferring money back in, just offsetting is transfer less to reserves. And this was an expense in the next report. It mentions that this was actually budgeted as well in 2025, but did not happen. So it's being pushed to 2026 now. The arena parks, so they look after the sports center, including the arena, auditorium, curling rink, the sports fields, the parks, including the gazebo, waterfront walkway, beach, cemeteries, the municipal campground, marina, and the cleanup of downtown, including garbage removal and general maintenance. Notes on the revenues for the arena parks this year. We're looking at a 2% in the tax requisitions from the RDCK for the arena and cemetery. We've budgeted an increase in campground revenues from 134,500 last year to 155,000 this year. Just for comparative purposes, our revenues in 2024 were 156,000, and in 2025 were 176,000. So it's still somewhat of a conservative budget for revenues there. It's actually less than what each of the last 2 years were. And we decreased the marina revenue budget from 60,000 to 45. It has not been filling up. So 2024 revenues were just under 49,000, and in 2025 they actually decreased further and were 42,500. 60,000 would be if it was actually filled up. Expenditures. So we've decreased the Parks and Recs general expenditures about 22,500, and that's just related to a reduction in the rec clerk's hours. So they were a full-time employee for the department in 2025, and they're moving to a half-time place. So half their hours are going to be reallocated to the hospitals. there's a pretty large increase in the sports fields budget of about 18,500. And that's just related to materials and labor for irrigation work and fertilizer. Stuff that hasn't been done in a number of years, so there's quite a bit of catch-up work to do on that there. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're also looking at getting the turf done for the Jackie James all diamond in-house too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And then we decreased the budget of campground expenses. That's because we switched the contract, so it's no longer a fully contracted out service where they get a percentage of revenues. Now it's just a monthly fixed fee for a site host, so it costs a bit less, does make some work for the village, but we see more profit left with less expenditures related to that, so we're budgeting for that. And there's an increase in budget transfers to reserves, and that is primarily from a increase in campground reserve transfers. There's also a bit of a decrease in marina reserve transfers, but overall it netted out to about a $25,000 total increase, because I think campground is about a $40,000 increase and the marina was a $15,000 decrease. And fire protection, so they provide firefighting, inspections, education, ambulance assist, and look after the emergency services building. And there's probably gonna get more added to this list going forward, but this is just based off of last year. Changes to revenues for fire protection in 2026. We're going to increase the RDCK requisition request from 92,000 to 146,000. Significant increase, but that represents a 46%. It represents 46% of the total taxation cost for the fire department budget, which is in line with the amount of assessed properties in the fire protection area that are outside of the village and inside of defined area K. So the village's share would be 54% of the budget, which is about 171,000. Expenditures, so looking at a decrease in training and conferences, about 5,500, and that is because we will no longer be paying a training officer stipend. It'll be included in the fire chief's duties. And then fire general are seeing a significant increase from about 97,500 to 179,000, and that is for the additional cost of a full-time fire chief. And again, keep in mind that the overall effect on taxation for these is lesser because the village is only really responsible for 54%. So it's an $80,000 increase, but 46% of that will be funded by the RDCK. In Hot Springs, we have the facility itself, the chalets and campgrounds. Notes for revenues in 2026, we're budgeting for slight increases of $10,000 in facility sales and campground revenue and a $25,000 increase in chalet revenue. On the report itself, it only had revenues to October 31st. And if you see, we're basically already at our budgeted level for chalet revenue this year, with 2 full months still to go. So we were going to actually significantly blow by that, which is why we have the increase there. And then campground outperform revenues by quite a bit. And we expect facility sales to, by this year's end, be about 110,000 as well. We also have some plans to increase sales up there next year, I think, with some of our capital improvements that we're going to be bringing in the capital budget. Expenditures. We decreased overall facility expenses by 25,600. That's mainly as a result of the hospitality manager position discontinuing, but some other things in there. There's an additional halftime admin position. That was the one that split with the rec clerk, and then there is some changes in overall staffing, but overall it's a decrease, and that's primarily because of the hospitality manager position. And the chalet expenses decreased by 600, and that was a result of a one-off that was in 2025. It was just some parking lot work that we had budgeted for 10,000. So essentially, chalet budget is more or less the same as it was this last year, slight increase. Lower options to balance the budget. We can always reduce costs and in turn reduce services or reduce staff. We can increase taxes, which is more or less what we have proposed here. We can increase fees and charges, and fees can only cover the cost of what they are for. We can find new revenue streams. We can use our existing surplus or reserves. Generally, we try to use our surplus and reserves for capital projects and not operating, unless they're unusual one-time things. And we can always incur debt, but again, that's not recommended unless it's for a capital project. And finally, the 5-year financial plan and tax rate bylaws, they're the final step, and we will prepare those after the final budgets have been approved, and they will have the operating and capital budgets consolidated together and form of a bylaw, which is required by legislation. It has to be adopted by council by May 15th annually, so we will have that brought forward at the first meeting in May for adoption. That is it. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Director of Finance. That's a great report. Questions? Council.
Thank you, through the mayor staff. One, I'll start from the very end is, greatly appreciate, the options for balancing the budget, through revenue streams and other examples. So thank you for providing that. That's huge. Thanks. Second, I just had a question, regarding, the EBIT. So we only have the end of the day for the hot springs, 2,283. Am I reading that right?
2,283.
Yeah.
Don't think you're reading it right.
So if I do our revenues, so.
Yeah.
Versus expenses.
So basically, we're breaking even.
Should be
Yeah.
zero. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
budgeted
okay.
break even. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Sorry. Oh yeah. Right here. I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Actually, so this year it's actually it's showing a slight deficit there.
Yeah.
Of $2,000, but two things to keep in mind. One, if you look in the final budget column, we had a $77,000 surplus amount, so which we haven't pulled any of that yet. So
okay.
that was to pay for the hospitality manager. So
Gotcha.
and then it's not written in the report, but the revenues are only up to the end of October. That's all we had down when I pulled these numbers a couple weeks ago. And then the expenditures they're a little bit more up to date. So they're probably like to mid-November. We're anticipating this year it's going to be basically a break even year.
Yep, thanks.
Which is a win because we were budgeting to actually pull 77,000 from surplus. So
Yeah. You didn't have to. Right on. Thank you.
Councilman Clark.
Well, I've got a few, but I'll just do the hot springs question. Similar to what Councillor Huff said about how to offset tax increases, i.e. revenue generation, right? And I noticed that we no longer have a hot springs manager, but I'm curious about longer term plans to the mayor, to staff about. And investing in a manager obviously is gonna have a cost associated with it, but at least. If they're good at their job, presumably within a year or two, it would net out, if not ultimately end up in higher revenue. Has that ever been thought?
Through the mayor, so the conclusion that we've come to, from a staff perspective is that we kind of maxed out what we can do for what we can do for revenues at the facility. We're sitting at a roughly record numbers when it comes to people coming into the hot springs itself. It's a slight decrease over the record, which was, I think 2022 was our top year, or was 2021. But realistically, can't really attract more people into the facility, given the size and what we have. And we're sitting at about a 95% occupancy rate in the chalets. And we hit record numbers when it comes to our campground as well. Really, the only way for us to create additional revenue is to start creating more ways to make more money. And so our thought is we need to bring about the expansion of the chalets, so more accommodation, because that's really our big money maker there. And once we're able to start building more revenue, then we'll have enough money to be able to hire a full-time manager to be able to manage the place. But as it is right now, it'll be split between myself and the director of operations. We have a divide on how we'll deal with the operation, and then of course we bring in help from the director of finance and the deputy corporate officer whenever we need it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, okay, repayments on the long-term borrowing. There's two of them. When are they due? When will they be finished? It's would have been back.
There's more than two.
This is the hot springs I'm speaking.
Oh, you're looking at hot springs, okay. Yeah, there's actually just one now. Can't answer that off the top of my head, but I can get that information from council. I want to say, I know we took out the loan in about 2007. Can't recall if it was for 20 or 25 years, so it's either 2027 or 32, or it could even be 20. It could have been 30 years. I'll look up the exact number, get that information to council in an email.
Was one of them, if I remember right, in 2013 when we bought the chalets?
Yes, that was just a 5-year, so that was paid off in 2019, actually, I believe.
That's paid off.
And this other one was just for, I think they did some roof repairs, I believe.
And was it a loan for the arena? There was $100,000 loan. Was there not?
There's a couple, yeah.
Is that in here? I was just kind of see if I can be in a part. So would that be under expenditures?
Yeah. Probably lumped into Parks and Rec General. Or Arena, one of the two. If you'd like, I can would it be helpful if I just gave you a full list of our debts and when they're due? Yeah.
Sewer and water. I saw the parcel tax. How close are we? Is Alexander done with the parcel tax, or is this, that's all done
That
now?
was done a long time ago.
So this one is of the North Road,
Yes,
these two. Yeah, that's the water.
that was the 2018 water and sewer expansion of North Road.
It's good. And sewer, I just saw the new connections, actual, 2025, 17,000. And expenditures, 876 for a new connection, and for water. 6931. And I didn't see expenses for water under expenditures.
New connections. I'm gonna say a lot of these new connections have probably been paid for and not done yet for 2025, which is why you're seeing the revenue showing. And the expenses are so low, not because it was super cheap to do, just because it hasn't been done yet.
I was just curious because new connections, I thought the water and sewer would be very similar.
Surprisingly, I actually, I question that too. There was a lot of new sewer connections that were applied for. And just sewer connections, no water. Whether they already had water, some of these properties had water, a water connection installed when they're subdivided, and for some reason, no sewer connection. So now they're going to develop the lot and they have to get a sewer connection installed.
Squash coat. I see it. Actual $18 fees within. How many people playing squash?
I think that was just Kevin, to be honest.
I'm sorry.
That was just Kevin, who's the only one who's paid so far.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. There'll be some more to your council, McLaren, did you have any?
Yeah, so, okay, fire protection, through the mayor. So it's a fairly substantial increase. And I know why, on our end, why it's going up because of the last meeting we had, but my question is about the area K, the regional district. And have we, I was just looking at their budget from last year and their whole budget was 580,000. So if it goes up by 45-ish thousand, 46,000, that's like an 8% increase just on that. So have we talked to them about this? Are they willing to pay it? And if they aren't willing to pay it, what happens?
So we have talked to them about it, I've given them the information, and we have not heard anything back other than confirmation of receipt.
Okay.
So basically, that's the cost. If they don't want to pay it, then the reality is they would have to find a different service for firefighting. And we would have to pay for the full cost ourselves, which is bad for everybody. More expensive for everybody. Yeah. So I assume that and I did, when I sent them the information, we brought up how the previous amount was agreed upon, which is based on assessment. And then it's just a percentage of they pay their fair share. And then the confirmation email did acknowledge that was how it was done. So sent them everything they need, asked if they need anything more, and just haven't really heard anything back yet. So we're probably going to follow up in about a week's time and let them know that like to get an answer by the end of December. They're at least going to take it forward to where it needs to go. With my understanding, there is like three people involved in it.
Well, yeah, I'm not really sure how they do it. That's who's on the email, so.
Yeah, I think it's the regional fire chief. Mike, just because he's the
Corporate officer.
and then you have and that as well.
Yeah, okay.
So it's probably got to circulate through all of them. Hopefully get back to us sooner than later.
Yeah, I'll try to lump my last couple of questions into one. Great that the campground was so profitable this past year. That's awesome. Interesting that it made, presumably it seemed to net way more money than the marina, which was interesting. And I guess my questions are about those two things, because they're, other than the hot springs, there are kind of revenue generators, is for the marina, the next step in the life of this asset slash liability? Where are we with that? And then for the campground, that's great that we're making more money. I just want to make sure that we're tracking some kind of, that the user experience is good as well.
So our campground, I can say that we do get reviews through Google, and the reviews are really good. We have like a 4.7% approval rate out of 5, so it's quite good. As for the marina, we just received word from BC Hydro today that that they've completed the engineering study of the breakwater, and the results are favorable. And so it looks like they're going to discuss with us the potential of a agreement on maintaining it. The key was to make sure that we could get that portion in good functioning order first before we even consider moving forward in anything with the actual marina itself. If the breakwater was something that was going to have to be replaced, it basically meant that the whole project was impossible for us to even consider, because the replacement of that breakwater was over $1 million. So the as for like the actual marina itself, yeah, there's a lot of work that needs to be done on it. We still have to put away a lot of money to be able to even consider to do work on it. The question still has to be asked, though, is as we see fewer and fewer people getting the slips, how important of a service is this really for the public? If people aren't willing to pay for what it actually costs to have a marina, then are they telling us by the fact that they're not renting out a slip that really doesn't matter to them that we maintain the service?
Yeah, thanks.
Councillor Connors.
Just in response to that, and the question I had earlier is, do you, through the mayor to staff, suspect that we have lower revenue on the marina because we've increased rates and people don't want to pay for it when it's not repaired yet? Because essentially they're paying higher rates so that we can repair it, but it isn't yet repaired. Is that potentially why we have lower?
It's that, it's also the fluctuating water levels, because we have a lot of slips now that we used to be able to rent out that you can't rent out year round because the water levels drop so low, or they drop low quicker. So that means now that the spaces are not open as often. But yeah, it probably is a portion of people don't want to pay more because they haven't been able to see the improvements. But people have to understand that they have gotten that facility for next to nothing for years and years and years. And this was naturally what was going to happen. At some time, you're going to have to pay more just to maintain what you have. And so we can't really, unless council wants to decide to take out a massive loan, like a massive loan to help out just a handful of people, this is the only way we can really go about it, is to save up our money and make repairs as we possibly can.
Supplementary to the staff. I don't know if you know this right off the top, and I don't actually need the number. I was just curious if you have it offhand what the quote is to repair the marina. When you're saying massive loan, I'm looking at
3 million was the last number.
some.
Now it might be a little bit lower because of the breakwater. Yeah, okay, so 2.
But back to the campground. So the difference is, before, so what are we doing differently? You've got more management, more public, you've got more public works working for the campground or parks, or no?
And then mostly
Is that,
more administration working for it.
Okay.
So taking and dealing with reservations at the office. More in the shoulder seasons before site host is hired, so we have somebody looking after it during the off season. And if it gets really busy, they'll help out as well. And yeah, it's a fixed rate monthly fee for the site host rather than a revenue share.
And the wharf, I'm looking at 902 actual this year, maybe more. Is that just mostly just snow removal, or is there other things you have to do to the wharf, being that it's owned by BC Hydro?
Yeah, the wharf's an interesting one because it is owned by. Yeah, let me think about this. Is it owned by BC Hydro? So BC Hydro provides us a fixed amount of funding that we can draw from in order to maintain it each year.
I think it's owned by us, but they're ultimately responsible. for it.
Exactly, yeah. We own it, but they have to fund it, is basically what it is. So what it is we then, our staff goes down there and they'll clear the snow, do minor maintenance on it. They end up having to talk to BC Hydro about any capital improvements that need to be done that year. We adjust the levels, basically keep it safe and operating for the public. And we allocate our staff time towards that and then report back to BC Hydro.
We invoice them every year for whatever it costs, which is, $900 this year.
It will probably be more though, by the end of the year, because we just have to calculate more hours.
Okay. Any other questions? Councillor Kaiser?
I'm just wondering to the mayor and the staff, appreciate to the director of finance, this report, which is different than the report we have in our computer, so I'm just wondering if we can get a copy of this.
Yeah, it's gonna be added into the minutes. I just didn't
lovely.
finalize it until this afternoon. so,
Thank you,
yeah.
it was helpful, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Finance? All in favor? Carried. Seven. Recommendations that the 2025 contribution to the sewer reserve be increased by 150,000 from 104,312 to 254,312. Motion to bring that forward. Councillor Blanco, seconded. Councillor Kanoizen. Questions? Favor? Carried. The 2025 contribution to the municipal campground reserve be increased by 75,000 from 104,560 to 99,560. Motion to bring that one forward. Councillor Blanco, seconded. Councillor Huff. Questions? Councillor McClark.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Through the mayor to staff. The campground expansion study that was done a few years ago. Ballpark numbers were like it was $1 million to do the work, so it's probably closer to 2 these days, but at this rate, could we get close to leveraging some kind of investment, some kind of MFA loan to make the investment in the campground? Like if we're putting 75,000 in,
Right, see what you're saying?
it's not bad, like we can pull it in.
We could borrow it and then pay it off, but if we're making 75,000 a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be possible. I think that. So the expansion is broken into two parts. One was basically paving and electrifying, beautifying everything that was already there. That was like $1 million. And then the expansion down the 10th Avenue, I think, side, which was about another $1 million. It's like the total cost was 2 million, and then there was another small portion that was just a new entrance from Miss B's side. So anyways, not super important. That was like 160 grand. So yes, that would be a possibility. I think we do have some plans in the next year to do some smaller stuff with this funding. I don't know if Kevin wants to elaborate on that.
Yeah, so the electrification is in process of additional sites. And then we'll be looking at just some basic updates of infrastructure like sewer service, water service. When we put the electrical in, we will put in water service line. We won't do the water services, but we'll put the line in because we're gonna have trench open. So we'll be preparing to more water services as well. And those are the basics in mind. And I think the other potential piece, I don't know if you want to speak to it, Wayne, but if we do a market analysis for tourism.
Yeah, so we've applied for a grant for market analysis through the hot springs, and of course, that will also inform what we can expect for people to come into the community and what different things they're gonna use. So it's not just specific for the hot springs, but it will also help us take a look and see what we can expect to see for people coming into the community and what kind of visitors they are. So if they're campers, for example, that might give us the business case that we need to be able to expand the campground. As it is right now, the campground's not full 100% of the time. We are seeing great, increases in our revenue, of course, but we don't feel that we have enough evidence at this time to do a full expansion of the hot spring. Of the campground, and it to yield the results we would need to pay that off.
Okay, thanks.
To see, and would we, I know Director of Operations did mention that there may be 7 more outlets that you may be doing. Would we also be looking at the washroom that was built in the 1960s? It's pretty old and there's no office there. Is that something, because right now they have to bring a tent in or whatever they do for their office, and so something we'd be looking at?
We've talked about this issue a couple of times, but just of course lack the money to be able to move forward on anything. We've talked about one thing we're looking at is whether or not it makes more sense to renovate the washrooms or to tear down and build new. So we're going to take a look and see what would be the most, what would be the benefit, the pros and cons of that, and including taking a look at what the cost would be from one over the other. And then in terms of a place for like an office or whatnot, we've talked about the idea of bringing in like one of those bunkies, which are like the smaller buildings where someone would be able to live and have an office in it. And we have looked at that as a possibility too. So we are actively looking at those different things. It's just encouraging once we see these revenues, come in and we're putting more and more into the reserves. It gives us the ability to actually, start considering some of these moves when before it was just something we were dreaming about.
No, it's good, yeah, because actually I did sit on that committee, hot springs, or campground expansion committee, along with Beth McLeod and a few others. And so it's interesting to see where it's going. So, any other questions? All in favor? Carried. All right, so you got 2 choices here, but we'll just bring it in and we can discuss it. Choices or not. The council directs staff to develop a disc golf course in the park, and the funding come through either NACPOR Legacy Fund and or the Community Development Grant. Our motion to bring this forward. Councilor McClarnco, seconded. Councilor Canoisen. Okay, roundtable discussions. Councilor Canoisen.
I should know this, but I'm just wondering if it would be worthwhile going to a committee of the whole to discuss this.
It's up to the council. Is there something council wants to do? Committee of the whole?
We can just talk to them.
Let's just hold
So I would just like to first of all open up with well done, Director of Operations Kevin Gates, for coming up with an idea that has a maximum return for the community recreation with minimum effort. But then I'm going to go on to say I'm really invested in increasing recreation in the community, and that's why I was on the recreation committee. And I think we have a recreation master plan in the works we're waiting to have come back to us. So personally, I'd like to see those recommendations before making spending decisions. So while I'm in favor of disc golf and recreation and the idea in general, I think that I would personally like to see us wait until we have that recreation master plan in hand before we have spending decisions.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor McLaren-Coe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just start by saying my bias is I love disc golf, so I'm gonna try to set that aside. I have had people from the community ask me about this, not related to this, because this is new. I guess my questions through staff are, having done this for years and years before I moved here, because we don't have a course here, has there been a call out for a volunteer group of people or volunteers? What kind of support, how many people would want to do this in the community? Do we have concerns about liability? Do we have concerns about exclusive use of the space? Those are my concerns, questions.
So in terms of exclusive use of the space, it doesn't need to be exclusive. You can still walk your dogs. You can still just walk in the area. You see this in a lot of courses, and obviously there's signs that say, hey, you know, watch for flying discs and keep your heads up. And on, you know, the main fairways, it's basically you wouldn't want to be there, but it's not like it just gets allocated just to the course or need not be. In terms of interest, there's been some chatter in the community. So there was a very interested, experienced player who had all sorts of ideas about community partnerships and design and contributing to the effort to make a course happen here. So I think there is some latent desire, but none of that has been formalized, like through a survey or anything like that. Okay. And there's a third question in there.
I'll wrote them down. Liability. Just through the mayor, because that was my thought, is if, you know, a senior's walking their dog through the park and then gets beamed in the head with they're hard discs, the drivers are hard.
For sure, yeah, it'd be similar liability to slopage in terms of when a ball gets knocked out of the park. There's always a risk that it'll hit a person or a vehicle, and it's just part of the inherent risk of being around a park and sporting activities. So while we would do our due diligence in terms of signage and making sure that people are aware of, you know, what's happening around them, it ultimately is just one of those, you know, keep your head up when you're walking in a park.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So,
To the mayor, to staff, I guess, love the idea. Unfortunately, I can't support it just due to the fact of some of the subjects that Councillor Knoesen brought up. And just with other maybe I'll say more important items that we could probably address. I love the idea. I just don't think it's right now.
okay, thank you. Okay, actually, I had played this in Kelowna, West Bank. And yeah, it's interesting. So if there is just one person came forward, no nonprofit group, no other groups came through, wanted to take this on.
No official group, as you can imagine, without a course in town, there's no, you know, user base previously established.
And Councillor Knoesen was speaking about what committee or
The recreation master plan
creation master.
that we've approved and it's in the works.
And can I ask where that's at or where we're going?
Very early stages. We had our first meeting a half ago. It's unscheduled to be completed by June.
In June?
Yes.
Councillor McLaren?
I'd suggest, and Councillor Knoesen mentioned it earlier today, before the meeting, that maybe this is something we just refer to. Like, we don't have to defeat it, as in, no, it's a bad idea. But I think maybe the thought is, if we could make this, if we could decide on something like this as part of a larger idea, like if we have, you know, a menu of options and this is if for recreation and or other things that we want to use the legacy fund and the community development fund for, then maybe it better lives in a larger conversation. So whatever the proper procedure is, refer, I forget the term, refer or table it
Could
to.
this be tabled? For information? And maybe reach out to the community if there are other nonprofit groups that may be interested in taking this on. You can sit down with operations and figure a course. And yeah, because right now, the funding, it's one, is there enough interest? Two, I believe there would be, but it's early. I think there's an opportunity to discuss it and table it and get the word out. There's people out there that are interested in taking this on. Because there are a lot of nonprofit groups that really enjoy taking these kind of things on. So my consensus of what I'm hearing, table it. And we'll leave it out there and anyone who wants to bring something forward, up to the community, we can maybe put this out there that this is available, options. We're looking for groups that may be interested or I'm not sure what it could look like.
Sorry, I'm just thinking procedurally how we do that. It just needs to be a vote to table the motion.
Yeah, can I have a motion to table this? Councilor McLaren, seconded. Councilor Canoisan, any further questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay, thank you. Thanks to Director of Operations for bringing this forward. Okay, Julie. Actually, maybe we can get that, what's that called? Called the squash team. Anyway, looks like I got J9 coming. So everybody had a chance to read this. Some people may not have received this email today. Everybody received it?
Yeah.
So, mainly we're asking, she's coming, Minister of State Anderson is coming on January 13th, Tuesday. Everyone's available at that time, 1:40 to 2:10. Leaves 30 minutes to speak and discussions and ideas. May be interested in highlights of importance that we want to bring forward. I have a couple, but I can wait. Councilor,
So are we looking just for the availability or are we looking for topics?
topics.
Kind of short notice.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah.
Are we,
I guess, you know, just,
I can wait.
the lands discussion, I guess, I would bring up, title of the headline rates, land. Be one good subject to bring up.
First Nations,
Yeah, the current situation.
okay. First Nations
What was that thing?
concept.
No, it should.
No, but it's under the United. UTRIPA, yeah. UTRIPA, yeah.
Councilor Canoisan,
I would make myself available for that conversation. I don't know specifically what topics to bring forward, so I'm open to hearing what topics. I agree completely with the lands discussion. That would be.
about land, so I have one. NDP government really speaks heavily on value over volume for timber. And I think there's an opportunity for our community to, I'd like to speak to her more about the opportunities for value over volume, value added. NAC4 board has a committee, manufacturing committee, and I'd like to explore this more for opportunities for jobs, things like this. I'd like to know more on value over volume, what they mean by that, like some more options, you know. It's a good word, value over volume, but what does it mean? what do you got for us? You know, Glasnipov has mass timber. What can we do here? What opportunities can you fund us for opportunities to meet with the manufacturing committee ideas to create more jobs? We probably have the best product of timber anywhere in BC. There's opportunities with value over volume. We talked about box like lumber. It didn't work for them. Value over volume, they were gonna close their mill down because they said, well, it was value added, but it didn't work out. The only thing that saved them was burnt timber. So I'd like to know more about it. The other one, I guess, would be provincial funding. I keep saying there's no provincial funding for road rescue. Do we just shut it down? Wait for accidents to happen? We don't want to do that. You know, it's got to be funded by the provincial government. You can't put all the onus on communities, and that has to stop. You know, the taxpayer will get funded in the end, but we need a plan. So anyway, those are my two. Councilor Clarko.
I think these are all great so far. The only thing I'd add would be, I had forestry on my list as well, but it was kind of in a different vein because there's at least 3 or 4 communities in the province over the past month, 2 months that have had mills closed, and the forestry industry. I mean, we're I think incredibly lucky to have the community forest and for it to have done so well this past year and to declare $250,000 dividend. I think that's huge. But many communities across the province are in the exact opposite situation where they're like 100 Mile House and Crofton, and there's another that the name escapes me right now, but they lose like 10% of their workforce with one closure. So I wonder if there is anything that the province has in terms of a transition, like in terms of helping communities, although I know a lot of, there aren't a ton of forestry companies that are fully based inside the village, but a lot of our workforce is based in forestry. So if there were some kind of transitional, I don't know, something to help mitigate the change, because it seems as though forestry is on a steady decline across the province. I think NACOR's doing well, which is great, but I don't think that that's something that we can hang our hat on indefinitely. So yeah, if there's any transitional programs.
Yeah, and we are very fortunate with NACFOR and actually Interfor, and a pulp mill. Right now, we're gonna keep going. We're keeping as many people working as possible. So I've been in the forest industry since 1982. I've seen a cycle go like this, straight up, down. It's massive cycles. So I do, actually, there do hope some changes here, probably in the summer of 2026, big changes. Hopefully it comes around, but who knows? It's just frustrating to watch, especially at this time of year.
If I can expand a bit, I think if we zoom out a bit more, I think, and we talked to Minister Callan at UBC about this, the Jobs and Economic Growth Minister, about funding for economic development generally, because I mean, forestry is a sector, but there are several other sectors that make up the economy of the village. So I think and she's the Minister of State for rural communities and local governments, right? So if we kept pressing on her to say, look, help us continue to fund, non-grant based fund, other, grant funded programs to help small communities like ours, diversify our economies, transition not away from forestry, but allow some other sectors to also be supported. I think that would be consistent economic development funding, I think would be helpful.
Probably another one is agriculture. We're sitting in a valley that has probably the richest valuable land around. And we are in a rural area where it's hard to bring produce in. I think there's great opportunities to talk about economic. I think there's great opportunity for agriculture. Actually, Friday night, I had the opportunity to visit Janet Spicer. After the festival, went down to the Heritage Festival, and had an opportunity to meet Janet in the back, and what she produces is incredible. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for agriculture here, economic growth. I'm not sure how it would work. But it's amazing what we could do to generate income and economics. So I'm not sure how. Well, that could be put into economic growth, also agriculture. So I'm not sure. But amazing woman. That's all I gotta say. Amazing, amazing. And the product she had these leeches. I've never seen a leech this long. Not leeches, but it's used for vegetables like this long and potatoes like that. And I'm going, wow, just amazing woman. So anyway, we could learn a lot from her. Be interesting to sit down with her and show us what we could do for our community going forward. Anyway, just an idea. Agriculture, if we have time.
So you have 30 minutes.
Yeah.
To talk to her. Would you like to talk to her about, you could probably just say economic development and go from there. Then you have the road rescue provincial funding and the title and rights decision through like title rights and how that's affected by DRIPA.
Just one more thing that I had got lost in my notes here. That land, the forestry land, like the Ministry of Forestry land on the highway there on 6th. Is it appropriate to bring that up with her to say, can you help secure that land for housing? Because we've been trying to push on that for, I don't know, a year and 2 years now.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's probably warrants to bring it up to her again so she doesn't forget about it. Because she has been talked to before, but it's kind of gotten to the point in the government where there's really not much more that can happen until BC Housing has stepped up and said, yes, we want to take on another project. And right now they're still in that year-long hiatus of where they're not taking on new projects.
Okay.
But it doesn't hurt to talk about it.
And what about the two parcels of Crown land when you go down the Old Port Road to the airport? Where they did the fire mitigation, there are 3 lots there that are in Crown land. Is that an opportunity for economics there to actually, they would hand that over to us?
The province will not give us land unless it goes through a certain channel. They're not allowed to. So what it is the province, if they want to just give the land, they can sell us the land for nominal value, not for nominal value, for market value. But if they want to provide it to us for nominal value, we only have certain choices. So we can either lease the land from them on a 99-year lease. We can purchase from them outright, as I said, at the larger amount or the market value. If they go to give it to us for less than market value, they have to present it to First Nations first and ask them basically, do you want it first? And then it comes back to us. And the only way that works, the only way that we are able to get it for a nominal value, it's the same with the forestry land, is they would have to give it to us through a agency. So basically it passes over the agency is going to do what they're going to do with the land, and then we retain the ownership of it after that land has been developed by that agency.
Yeah, thank you. Any others, Councillor Knows?
This might be a silly question, open to anybody to answer. I'm just wondering, we have 30 minutes and we have lots of things we'd like to discuss, and I think all of these are important. I'm just wondering if makes sense to send her away with a written piece of paper with all the things that we might not have time to touch on.
Through the mayor, I know that I haven't been through it yet, but UBCM does advocacy days in sometime in the spring. And part of what they had said was there are leave behinds. So when we go and talk to ministers, we will say, also, please review this. because we don't have all the time. So I think not just for the items that, like the extraneous items, but the ones we're actually talking about.
Okay, good, we're at 8:30 PM, so do you have to decide whether you guys want to continue?
Oh,
Want a motion to continue? Mason House says.
that's be the guys.
In favor? Carry. All right, so we'll continue.
Okay, yeah.
So, where were we? Got a list?
I have a list of 6 things. You. Can I speak?
Yeah, you can,
Do you, like, are you expecting staff to have a write-up for all these different things for you? Because, to be honest with you, A, we don't have time. And B, I don't know exactly what it is you want to talk about with these different things.
yeah, so this, it was just a late item. We did our best.
Yeah, yeah.
We did very well. So I think it's something that we could, if you could sort of send back what we just said, some info with all of us. Just, I think you wrote it down. I saw you writing it.
Yeah, I haven't written it down.
So send it back and it'll help us when we do meet.
Okay, I'll give it that. You have 5 minutes per topic.
So, any other questions? All in favor? Carried. Information. Recommendations that items K1 to K7 be received for information. Have a motion to bring these items forward. Councillor Huff seconded, Councillor McLaren Cole. Councillor Huff, any items you wish to bring forward? Nothing. Councillor Canois.
No, thank you.
Nothing. Councillor McLaren Cole.
A couple, there's a K5, which is Communities in Bloom. And I was just curious if we had any interest in, I think we're at one point, a member of this thing.
Councillor McLaren Cole, yes, we did it. I can't remember what year, whether it was 2020, 2021. I thought we did it.
I think it was actually before the revite was done, to be honest.
So,
I think it was before the revite was done.
why did I think that they came here and did a? Actually, they actually came here.
Yeah. Almost 10 years ago.
Was it 10 years ago now? Yeah. That time flies. Yeah. So that's something, like go into the action items, if anybody's interested. Do you want to speak more on
I guess we can talk about it after, but the other couple things were, I mentioned it a bit earlier, the tipping fees for RDCK have increased based as per the letter number 6. And again, that's they're trying to shift the burden away from taxpayers funding the system to users funding the system. And then the other thing, just to highlight, there were several of the information items that were related to Bill M216, the Professional Alliance Act. And I just wanted to, I'm sure everybody's read it, but there's a lot of pushback, like more pushback to this than I think I've ever seen from any legislation in the 7 years I've been doing this. So yeah, that's it.
So to the CAO, do you figure that, I've been reading this M216 and I think I've read all the comments and I can't see it passing. Can you?
Stranger things have happened. But no, with the amount of pushback, I would be really shocked if this moved forward in its present state.
Tipping fee 6, I made my first venture with the new rules and regulations up there. Lucky they have a fence there when you back up. So it's a long way down. So anyway, it's quite interesting. They have 2 bins, one for just garbage bags and the other one for mattresses, all different items, couches, and different fees. So it's going to be some works iron, it's going to take some trial and error. See, they had some troubles, especially when you back up with the dump truck. When you dump it, it's going to compact it more. It's going to be there's gonna be some learning curves there, how that's gonna work, because it has a compactor and it's got just not much room when you push. So it could get really jammed up in there, so it's gonna take some learning curves there, how that all works. And I'm sure the village has already run into a few issues, maybe when they take their garbage and recycling up there. I'm not sure. So let's go back to, is it K5? Just something comes to communities bloom. And I see there's two options. I think there was, one was 300 for 3 options and 600 for 6 options, is that right?
That's correct.
I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, sorry, it was $450 for the GROW, which is the modified evaluation, 3 criteria. It does say in their information package that this is good for first time, smaller or returning communities who want a simpler CIB option. That we get to choose any 3 criteria to be evaluated on or choose a theme. And we need to host a pair of judges, shortened for 1 tour day. And yeah, whereas the Bloom, which is the $600 package, so basically they will evaluate us on all 6 criteria, which is community appearance, environmental action, heritage conservation, tree management, landscape areas, plant and floral displays. I'd say that we're probably more to go with the GROW. That would be my thought to start off with, and see if you want to expand from there in the future. But yeah, the only thing is that when you're part of the Bloom, you get the Bloom awards, which is nice to have. You get your ratings, but if it is our first year after returning for some time, it might make sense just to ease into a little bit.
I think it's a great opportunity to show off Ray Nickel, what he does for our community.
Yeah.
It's just a, yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Said it could be his last year, so we better go Bloom.
Yeah.
Mhm. So it's up to council. Actually, let's quickly go around if there's anybody interested in the Bloom.
That's it's 600?
Yes.
$600, yeah.
Yeah.
Second reason?
Yeah, we can do it.
Okay, we'll bring that forward into action items. Any further items to bring forward? All in favor? Carried. And the items K5, is it K, which one do we need? K6?
It's K5.
K5, be moved to action items. Can I have a motion to bring that one forward into action? Motion on Franco, seconded. Councilor Huff. Any questions? And when does this start?
We have to, it basically takes place in the summer. That's when the judges will come in and do their tour.
Or when do we have to apply?
We have to apply by March 31st. We have lots of time.
All right, any other questions? All in favor? Carried. L, action items? Notice of motion? Questions from the press or public? I'll go to the people in the online first. Hearing none? Okay, did I go to the gallery? Okay, thank you. All right, hearing none, we will go to notice of in camera. Notice of in camera, then in accordance with sections 90.1, a part A of a council meeting may be closed to the public if the subject matter being considered relates to or is one or more of the following: labor relations or other employee relations, and that persons other than council members and municipal officers be excluded from the meeting. A motion to bring forward, Councilor Ponto, seconded, Councilor Knozen. Okay, we will close the regular meeting and we'll take a 5-minute